Living the life. Living the life. You know, part of living the life today is things like casinos. They're everywhere. When I was a teenager, there weren't a lot of casinos around. But my hair goes everywhere. When I was a teenager, there was a casino real close to where I lived. But they didn't let teenagers in. But there weren't a lot of casinos. Now they're everywhere. I've been to some casinos. But you know, you don't have to go to casinos to go gambling, because every convenience store you go to, they got Lotto and Powerball and Mega Millions and scratch-off tickets. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Not only that, but you got bingo parlors, and they aren't just in churches. You got pickle parlors and pull tabs, and they're everywhere. You got Texas Hold'em parties, and not just in the casinos and on TV. You got Texas Hold'em parties everywhere. Neighborhood parties. So it's not very surprising when Christians ask me, is gambling a sin? Is gambling a sin? If you'd asked my father when he was still alive, he'd have said, yes, it's a sin. The answer I usually give is, that depends. I'm not trying to be wishy-washy. I'm not trying to quibble here. And I'm certainly not going to say my father was wrong. I've got 3 points I want to make. I want you to listen carefully to these 3 points. And I'll challenge you to listen to the rest of what I got to say today before you make up your own mind. Listen to these 3 statements and listen carefully. Statement number 1, my father was right. Gambling is a sin. Number 2, the question today really is, what is gambling? Our world has changed since my father was a young man. Even just in the last 10, 15 years. After his passing, the world has changed even more. So the question behind the question is, where's your heart? Where's your heart? I'm going to ignore statement number 1. Gambling is a sin. I believe in answering the next 2 statements or questions, it will become clear that that's what I believe. And I think it'll become clear that that's what the truth is, the reality. As for statement number 2, what is gambling? Well, I'm going to more or less ignore that one too. I believe that as I try and answer the 3rd question, that this one will become rather clear. But let me say this, gambling can mean different things to different people. If you're a millionaire and you're playing penny stakes poker, where the most you're going to lose is like $20 in a night, that's not technically, maybe technically it's gambling, but boy, it sure don't amount to much. You know what I'm saying? I used to play Texas Hold'em with the guys in the club when I was in the motorcycle club. And I would go and the minimum buy-in was $20, and I'd buy in every week. Well, whenever I was there. And I would gamble till the $20 was gone, and then I'd quit. I'm not very good. Probably because I haven't played much. I didn't consider gambling so much as just the cost of spending some time with my very dear brothers and friends. Same thing, I played in casinos. When I was making really good money and I was in Las Vegas, I had an absolute limit, $300. I'd go to Las Vegas and I had $300. If that money, if I arrived on Sunday and the money was gone on Monday, I didn't gamble the rest of the week. I considered it entertainment. $300, that's a lot of money. Well, one time my wife and I went, and we went to a Cirque du Soleil one night and a variety show another night, and the tickets for those two shows cost me $400. Sounds like I'd be better off gambling than going to the shows. People, it was, in my mind, it was money already spent. It was just like the entertainment money, and I could easily afford it. It wasn't even a problem for our family budget. So, what is gambling? Well, let's go to question number 3, and that's what's the question behind the question, or where is your heart? I think that's the crux of this. Gambling encompasses much more than just what we call gambling. In fact, I'd say that the average American that lives by what we call a Christian lifestyle gambles on a daily basis, even if they don't do any of the above things. Let me continue and explain what I mean by that. The dictionary defines gambling as the activity or practice of playing at a game of chance for money or other stakes, or the act or practice of risking the loss of something important by taking a chance or acting recklessly. When I was a young man, I jumped a motorcycle off a cliff into a river. The cliff was 50 to 75 feet high. I don't know exactly. I was gambling with my life, wasn't I? Well, I understand that. Kind of a stupid thing to do. It was in my pre-Christian days, okay? I was high on drugs. Doesn't matter. It was gambling. What the dictionary calls gambling is trying to get something for nothing, basically. In the case of jumping the motorcycle, it was looking for an adrenaline rush. Let's take a common one that we all understand, speeding. I tell you, the majority of Christians out there speed every day, especially on the freeway, but even around town. I see people I know that go to church and are good Christian people, and they go by me on a 30-mile-an-hour road with 2 lanes each way, and I'm doing 30, might be doing 35, and they go by me at a faster difference. Too many. Maybe I'm gambling, because if I get pulled over, I get a ticket, right? Isn't that a gamble? If we buy a Powerball, are we gambling? Putting, what's Powerball, $2? I think $2. If we put $2 down on Powerball, we're gambling $2 to see if we can win, $100 million or whatever. Yeah. A lot of Christians play lotto. Yeah, I admit, I buy $5 or $10 worth every year. Not sure why. I don't think I ever even win $2 back. But Christians, what about retirement accounts? You put your money in a 401k, and you know, you can lose money. I started saving late in life. I was in my mid-40s. I put most of my money in high-risk stocks. And Black Thursday came and I lost more than half of what I had. I left it in high-risk stocks and I was building up pretty good, and 9/11 came and I lost more than half. I lost enough to buy a pretty nice house. Black Monday came and I hadn't made much up and I lost 3/4 of what I had left, and I didn't have a lot left. Sounds like I ought to stay out of the stock market. The point is here, people, isn't that a risk? Well, no, Pastor Velcro, because I've got all mine in minerals, gold and silver, and that never goes down. Yes, it does. Or it could. It could. Not likely. You're probably wise, but it could. How about buying a house? The first 2 houses we bought, we lost money on. Now, the first one we could have made money, but we didn't stay in it long enough, and the market had gone down a little bit. But I had a new job, we had to move, we moved. The second one was wiped out by a flood, and we didn't have flood insurance. In Florida, flood insurance was very expensive. And we were on a hill. We didn't figure we'd ever get flooded. But you know, when you buy a house, you know, it's considered the best investment any American can make. I've heard that from many financial counselors. And yet you can still lose money on a house. Market can go down if you don't maintain the house, which can be expensive. The value can go down. You know, you get transferred. Let's say you lose your job, you can't make the payments anymore, the bank's going to foreclose anyway, and you lost all your money. When we buy a new car, aren't we gambling? Even if it's a late model used car, we're thinking, you know, as soon as you buy that car, it's probably not worth as much money as you just paid for it. You have an accident and you might be in trouble. So they have gap insurance. Now, gap insurance is a gamble too, because you're gambling that you're going to need the gap insurance to pay for what you didn't cover when you gambled when you bought the car. And if you don't use the gap insurance, then you just wasted that money. Okay, am I getting too nitpicky here on gambling? We can play the what if game all our lives. You know, gambling is trying to get something for nothing, basically. We think we aren't gambling because we don't look at it that way, but aren't we really gambling? And here's where we come to the heart of all of this, okay? If you didn't listen to anything else, please listen now. Christians are just as enthralled as everyone else with playing the what if game. I've played it. What if I win the lotto? Well, I'm going to use it for God. I'm going to pay my tithe on it. I'm going to use 40% for God. I got this plan for a children's home, cancer research. If God wants us to have the money for those things, God can provide it without the lotto. Is it wrong to play the lotto? I don't think so. Unless you're gambling with your money that you can't afford to gamble with, which a lot of people do. But here's the problem, people. It's where our heart is. Too many of us play that lotto because we want to have millions of dollars. We want those possessions. We want more and more and more and more. And more and more and more and more. It doesn't matter how much we have, we want more. Is it wrong to own a nice car? Well, yes and no. Is it wrong to have a nice house? Yes and no. Is it wrong to have a big bank account? Yes and no. Each one has to answer for themselves, but here's the point. Jesus said, it's harder for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven than it is for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. I think it's because of where our focus is. Can you afford to gamble? Okay, go ahead. But let me ask you, where's your heart? If you say, I tithe, well, for 90% of Christians in the world, or better than 90%, I'll call you a liar. But shouldn't we give above and beyond our offerings? If you're a rich man, God's going to hold you accountable. The Bible says that in a couple places. To him who has been given much, more will be required than anyone else. How do you know if you're a rich man? Look around. Oh, I'm not saying look around at your friends. I'm saying, come with me. And let's visit a church you don't go to. And we'll ask 10 people at random how much they pay on their monthly mortgage or rent. If you're paying more than they are, you're rich. You hear what I'm saying? I can look at the parking lot and tell you who's got the money and who doesn't. I can look at your checkbook and tell you where your heart is. Is gambling a sin? Yes. My father had it right. He lived in a simpler time and he didn't have to ask, what is gambling? But he knew the question behind the question. And that is, it isn't about the gambling, it's where's your heart. And you know what? You are loved. And that's amazing.